The importance of basic communication is one of those things that we take for granted nowadays. Looking back, it's honestly insane that we're able to talk to basically anyone we want over something like the internet. And I feel like things like multiplayer gaming just simply wouldn't be the same without it. Not only because it can be used to form strategies and or share intelligence, but also because of things like this.
We're rich! We're rich! We're rich!
Ain't it a beauty? And unsurprisingly, TF2 has managed to tackle communication pretty goddamn well. Aside from that little hiccup, of course, we've got dedicated text chat to talk to everyone in the server, as well as a filter to only share information with teammates. And if text chat ain't your thing, voice chat certainly exists as well. That is, when it's not being spammed with random ass music. But in all fairness, basic chat functions are part of practically every relatively modern game, especially ones made on the Source engine. But TF2 does have one more means of communication, one that is a lot more complex but also has a lot of personality behind it, that being voice commands. It's funny how much we use this means of communication without really thinking much of it. I cannot begin to imagine just how many times I've said thanks in the 3,300 hours I've spent in the game. Goddamn! But like a lot of things in TF2, voice commands aren't exactly perfect. Sure, they're completely functional as is, but please do tell me, in what world do we need two of the exact same voice command present? And better yet, why is that duplicated command for pastime of all things? Who the fuck is playing pastime anymore? So you know what, just for fun, I want to try to revamp the voice command system, because let's be real, aside from the weird pastime command addition, they have not been touched in a very long time, and I feel like this is enough of a reason to at least give it a shot, especially when you realize that TF2 has evolved quite a lot over the last 15.5 years. But without padding this out any further, let's try to improve voice commands. And in fact, I've already got a good starting point in mind. Now, why do I think the layout needs to be looked at? I mean, it's completely fine as is. It's just 3 menus that have up to 9 commands each. It's simple and certainly gets the job done. But if you really think about it, there is a major missed opportunity here. Here's the thing. For some people, it's a tad annoying to have to drag their hand over to the higher number keys for certain voice commands. And come to think of it, something else had a pretty similar problem. That being Spy's disguise menu. So how did they go about solving that problem? Well, it's actually pretty simple. They added an option for the use of a concise menu. So instead of hitting 8 to disguise as a sniper, you could just hit 3 and then 2 if it felt more comfortable to you. It certainly would be a pretty complex addition, but honestly I wouldn't mind having an alternative way to use voice commands. But that is not my only issue with the layout. This is certainly a bit of a nitpick, but goddamn, they need to be reorganized. Sure, there are some that make sense being together, like the X building here ones, but then you've got the help command being paired with the likes of battle cry and nice shot. So how could we improve organization? My thought is to use the pre-existing menus we have and turn them into the new categories for these commands. The Z menu can easily represent the most basic of the bunch, stuff that is meant to be incredibly common but not inherently team focused, stuff like thanks, yes, and no. But as for the rest of the commands, well, I feel like it would make sense to split them between the other 2 menus, with the X menu housing the more common team commands such as medic and help, and the C menu housing the much more niche ones such as the X building here commands. Oh, and for good measure, let's just remove that duplicated command since we honestly don't need more than one. With these changes alone, the voice command system already looks a lot better, having better organization as well as having an alternative way of using them. But with these simple changes out of the way, I can move on to something a lot more interesting. New voice commands. Now, do we actually need new voice commands? Certainly not. But as I said earlier, TF2 has evolved over the years. We've got much more varied maps and skill levels than ever before, so it only feels natural to evolve the in-game systems with it. And I can imagine that the voice actors would love to record new voice lines for the game if given the opportunity, with the exception of Rick May, of course. May he continue to be at peace. But even then, there doesn't actually need to be new voice lines for these. Sure, it would give them more personality, but if worse comes to worse, it's not really that big of a deal. Plus, no matter what, this is still mainly just for fun anyways. So without further ado, here's some ideas for some potential voice commands. This has got to be the most commonly requested voice command addition, that being something to warn your team about an enemy sniper and or the sightline they are watching. But I know what some of you are thinking. How useful could this really be? Isn't that what the sniper dots are supposed to be for? And to that, well, you're right. But let me just show you something, as I think it'll be pretty convincing. As I was saying, it would be pretty goddamn nice to be able to quickly warn my teammates that a sniper is watching ahead because dots are kinda obsolete. Because even with them present, most people only really notice a sniper after they've already been hit. So having literally anything extra that can minimize the players walking directly into target practice is a win in my book. I mean, just think about how useful this could be, from basic sightlines to stuff like the entirety of Harvest. I don't know how else to say it. We need this as a voice command. Hell, it might even get people to stop whining about snipers every 5 fucking seconds. Nah, probably not. But on the subject of warning teammates from running face first into their doom, I think we can go beyond sniper sightlines. You know what? I'm just gonna come out and say it. Huh? Sticky traps suck, okay? Unless you're watching the demo place them and or notice they're just sitting out in the open, you're likely gonna be turned into the past tense before you... So why not have a command to warn against them as well? And I get it. This is a lot more situational than a command for sniper sightlines, especially when most demos just use stickies for spamming. But then there are those kind of demos who are just patient enough to wait for some poor sap to come barging in just to blow them to smithereens. And for those occasions, I feel like it would be nice to give your team a heads up before that happens. But you know, after talking about these specific and pretty situational ideas, why don't I introduce something a tad more common into the mix? I'm honestly amazed that this isn't already a voice command. Sure, it's good to have specific warnings for stuff like sentries and sniper sightlines, but also having a simple "hey, be careful" wouldn't hurt. Whether your team is turning a corner, pushing through a choke, playing way too aggressively, or just when you're about to face the enemy team, having a simple command to tell your team not to run in like idiots would be pretty helpful. Because more often than not, people like to run in guns blazing, which only works so many times without failure. But what about a command for when you do want to go in guns blazing? This is another phrase that I'm amazed isn't already part of the voice command list, especially for just how helpful it can be in coordinated situations, i.e. trying to get a juicy uber push by asking the pocket as well as the rest of the team if they are ready to go in. But even then, a command like this can be used in more than just that specific scenario. It could also be used for popping things like banners, capping the intel for crits, or even something as stupid as yelling at that one person in an MVM lobby who refuses to F4 as the timer goes all the way down, but nobody is willing to. Sorry, I was getting a little bit off track. I just honestly think having a simple command to ask others if they are ready would be a cool idea. That's all. It doesn't gotta be that deep, you know? And frankly, I'm sorry if you feel a different way about that. Sorry. That could work. For my final suggestion, I propose something different. I feel like we're all aware about how chaotic and utterly BS TF2 can be at times, and given that it always affects others, I feel like we should be able to apologize if we want to. You ever accidentally swipe a health pack away from someone who needs it? How about managing to hit an utterly ridiculous random crit? Or perhaps you just demolished an invisible spy by accident. Poor guy. Is this idea goofy? Of course. Do I care? Nope. The sole purpose of this command is to say sorry, because let's be real, this game is filled with BS moments, and I'm gonna feel bad after doing something like this to a medic. So that's it. 5 new ideas for voice commands that I feel like would add quite a bit to the game in the modern age. But unfortunately, we do have a problem. If we include the original voice commands alongside my additions, that would bring our total to 30 goddamn commands, which going off the layout is 3 more than what is allowed. So how do we go about fixing this? We could in theory remove the cancel button and swap it out for a 10th command slot, which wouldn't do that much harm because you can simply hit the menu button again to close it anyway. But on the other hand, I'd rather stick to the 27 command limit, since that's already quite a lot as is. So now comes the inevitable, removing some of the most useless voice commands. But the thing is, regardless of how niche some of the voice commands truly are, they all play at least some sort of role in the game, meaning none of them explicitly need to be removed. But anyways, I do have some commands in mind that I wouldn't mind losing. First would have to be the pass to me command. Shocker, I know. But like I've said many times now, so little people actually play pastime that it wouldn't be much of a loss, especially when you consider that it doesn't do anything outside of the niche game mode, and even if it were to, people wouldn't use it anyway. But on the other hand, if for some unholy reason you want to subject yourself to a good old round of pastime, the command should still be present in some way. Perhaps something along the lines of swapping the help command for it while you're in a pastime server. Is it a perfect solution? Of course not, but it would still be a lot better than leaving it all the way at the end of the voice command list like it currently is. But that's just one command. We still need at least 2 more to be removed to be within the 27 command limit. And what better options than the surprisingly useless go left and go right commands? Here's the deal. While they certainly can be used to direct the team towards one side or the other, I find it easier to mainly just say where specifically the team should go rather than telling him to go left or right. And then again, that might just be me. But nonetheless, I can say without a doubt that I have never used these commands once while playing TF2, and I'd imagine that many others would agree with me. So frankly, I could go without these as well. And with these removals accounted for, this is my finalized version of the voice command list. Personally, I think it's a lot better than what we have now, even if it's not exactly perfect. But then again, something like this can never truly be perfect anyway, because everyone's gonna have their own take on what belongs where, and the only solution for that would be a way to choose how the commands are laid out, but I don't see that ever happening either. But nonetheless, I am curious to hear your thoughts on voice commands, as well as your own ideas and concepts, so as per usual, leave some in the comments below. But with that said, big projects are coming down the pipeline, and I'm excited to see how they turn out. And if you do want to see some of this stuff ahead of release, I do have a Patreon. Of course, it's completely optional, but it is there if you're interested in supporting my future work. But either way, I'm excited for the future of this channel, and I hope you guys are too.